To me, it's the Jaguars. I'm not saying they're necessarily
Ooh,
making the playoffs. What
trap
I'm
team.
saying is, like I said, you got to throw out and everyone gets a redo with that Urban Meyer year. You
Yeah.
get Dougie P, who, while it didn't end great here, the dude has still won a Super Bowl. And you people can take away what they won from that, but he still was the head coach of a Super Bowl winning team.
He's called Big Balls Doug for a reason.
And it's just like, and like people can sit there and they can talk shit on him and be like, oh, he's the luckiest coach to win a Super Bowl, blah, whatever. There was definitely luckier coaches, and he won, and it, I just think that he goes there. It's a fresh start. They get Travis Etienne back. Trevor Lawrence, second year in the pros, he can take a step forward. They have some playmakers, especially like I said, Etienne. They still have James Robinson there. Um, their defense, they still got some guys, that they've been drafting. It's the fresh coaching staff that they brought in. It's got to be like kind of like a renewed confidence to get all that bad juju, the toxicity that came with Urban Meyer out of there, and just have a new set of coaches in there that kind of give you positivity. And
Yeah,
I just
for
think
sure.
that I'm not saying they're going to win 10 games and make the playoffs. I'm just saying they're going to be a lot more friskier than teams think. They're going to give some teams trouble. I would definitely, if Etienne can be considered, I would love to know what his odds are for offensive rookie of the year if he can still be considered since he didn't play it all last year. I think Lawrence is going to be way better his second year. They signed some people in the offseason, whether or not Christian Kirk's a true number one, who knows, but it still remains to be seen. But I wouldn't surprise me if we're talking in December and the Jaguars are sitting at 500 or a game over 500, and they got a chance to sneak, like do a backdoor sneak in it as the seventh seed in the playoffs, and they maybe just make it or they maybe just miss it. I just they'll be a lot better than people think, and I think people are going to come to remember that Doug is a good coach.
Yeah. Couple of things I want to hit on. I agree the Doug Peterson point cannot be underestimated or overestimated, I think. Just because Trevor Lawrence learning from a Super Bowl winning head coach will be massive for his development. And also, not just Doug Peterson, but the Jaguars still pulled off two impressive wins last year and big moments down the stretch where they held the Bills to less than 10 points. And they also stopped the Colts. They ended the Colts season. They didn't allow the Colts to get into the playoffs. And you
Oh
can
yeah, I
kind of,
forgot about that.
yeah, you can kind of see the glimmers of talent and a potential last season. And I think now that Doug Peterson brings an element of maturity and stability to the Jaguars, I could see them not necessarily, I agree, not necessarily a 10-win team, but don't be surprised if this turns into like maybe 500, or it can't go 500, but like 8-9, maybe 7-10. And it's like, okay, this is the small step in the building block for Jacksonville. They just need to get out of they have to stop the trend of being like 3 pick like every single season. Like they just need to stop doing that and really
Hmm.
get into just buy into the idea that they can compete. And I would not be surprised if there's a couple of trap games this year, which I'm sure as we go through the season, we may pick the Jaguars in a few games depending on the matchup. So I like Jacksonville as a
And
good
they
pick
they
on the
got
line.
Press Taylor being the offensive coordinator, who was kind of very heavily responsible for Wentz's really good season and for how Foles played down the stretch in those
Was
playoffs.
to completely redesign the offense like they did in the last 5 weeks or 2 weeks of
Right.
the regular season, and then to basically do what Belichick has done for 20 years and manipulate the offense to play to the weaknesses of the defense. That doesn't take any dummy. Like it takes a pretty bright group of coaches and a head coach and assistant coaches and all that type of stuff. And I'm sure Trevor Lawrence will definitely take a step forward this year. So
And they
yeah,
got Mike McCoy, who's I think he's their quarterbacks coach now, who has is a proven offensive coordinator in this league. He was the offensive coordinator for those years with the Broncos when Manning was really going off. He was the head coach of the Chargers. They were decent for a year or two under him. Like he's gotten a bad rap lately, but he has had success in this league. And then their defensive coordinator is Mike Caldwell, who spent the last 2 years learning from Todd Bowles. And
Yeah,
that's
really
Todd
good
Bowles is
heritage.
Todd Bowles is a great defensive coordinator. I don't care what people want to say. He's a great defensive coordinator. They got enough players that are former, stars in college or have done some things in this league that you can count on. And they have they had the number one pick and Trayvon Walker, who everyone thought was a reach, but then in preseason everyone's kind of talking like, hey, actually maybe this wasn't. This kid's really been like playing. They got Devin Lloyd, who everyone loved as a linebacker coming out. They got Josh Allen, the linebacker, who's still pretty good.
They got some
Clavon
talent, and
Clavon Chason, who was a big part of that LSU defense in the 2019 championship team. They got talent, and
they're just not
don't
household names.